Welcome to Empathy Corner, Conversations with Toad Counselling. I'm your host, Tony Matthews, and today I'm joined by Mario. In today's episode, we will be talking about mental health in general and Mario's work that he does with charities, and going off into more on the side of men's mental health as well. Mario, hello.
Hello.
Okay, so you're an ex-Royal Marine.
Yep.
How long were you in for?
Just short of 12 years. I think it was 11 and a half in the end, actually.
Okay. And did you ever struggle with mental health issues or worries or problems while you were in?
Whilst I was in, no. I think we were, because you were almost like a band of brothers, as it were, and there was people there that were going through the exact same things as you.
Yeah.
It's not something I personally struggled with. I think probably the biggest thing I struggled with was call it the fifth commando test, and it was home. Being away from home was probably one of the hardest things.
Yeah.
Being away from family, being away from home friends. But again, that you're around all the same people, everyone's going through the same thing. So that wasn't so much an issue. You saw it quite often where people had things going on in their life, whether it bereavement, things like that. And sometimes I used to look at them and go, how are they cracking on? Because what they're going through, I don't think I'd be able to cope with.
Yeah.
But I do think that having the right people around you, and it was the right people around you, everyone had been through the same thing in training, everybody deployed together, everybody had seen the same things and talked about the same things afterwards. It massively helped. And I think that was a good basis of why I didn't struggle with mental health in the military. Because I had that support around me, and everybody knew they had the same support, and if you needed something or needed somebody, it was always there for you.
Can you tell us what you did while you were in the Marines?
Well, I started off by you passed out training, you become a rifleman, you go to a unit. It wasn't long before I unfortunately became a signaller, and then got deployed on ship, locked in 4 steel walls for a few months at a time away at sea. That's where you really had to start relying on your oppos and people around you.
Yeah. Nowhere to go though, is there?
There's nowhere to go now, apart from when you did arrive at a country or arrive back in the UK, and it was almost like letting a spaniel off the lead.
Yeah.
Everybody just went nuts. And then I was quite lucky towards the end of my career because I transitioned to a vehicle mechanic. It's something I actually wanted to do since I was a kid.
Yeah.
I was quite fortunate to do that and actually managed to leave with a trade that I could use in civilian street. And in my last year, I was in there, so 2018 I think, I actually got flown out to the British Virgin Islands when Hurricane Irma hit. And that's when I first started seeing how much people can help other people with something so minute.
Yeah.
Fixing generators might not seem like a big thing, but when that generator is attached to a hospital and there's people relying on it, you understand you're not just fixing the generator, you're helping the helping the wider picture.
When did you come out of the Marines?
It was 2018, so I timed it with the birth of my first child, a son.
Yeah.
I didn't, like I said earlier, one of the biggest struggles people have in the military is being away from home.
Yeah.
I didn't want to be away for a significant period of time whilst I had a son growing up, only seeing me on weekends and or every few months for a couple of weeks at a time. The couple of weeks that I spent with him would have been amazing.
Yeah.
But I know going back to work and being redeployed or doing something else would have been a big struggle for me, and I didn't want that on a kid either.
So you chose to come out?
I chose to come out, yeah. I was coming up, I mean, to be honest, when I first joined, when I got lost on the way to college, I was 17, I didn't know what I wanted to do.
Yeah.
I joined thinking I'll do 3.5, 4 years and see where I end up, and I ended up doing, like I said, nearly doing 12 years. So I looked at me watch a couple of times and went, it's probably about time I left now.
Excellent. So you got out, you got a young family, married.
Yeah.
Being out of the military, going into civilian life, What would you say were some of the biggest changes that you had to manage and deal with in regards to that?
I mean, I think one of the biggest ones, first of all, was actually finding a job. after 11 and a half years of having the same job, you get quite comfy, and you know you're employed, and you know you've got that salary at the end of the month.
Did you find it difficult, or?
I mean, finding a job, no, because I stick by this. I think people in the military are grafters.
Yeah.
And I think there's a lot of places out there that recognise that people coming out of the military are grafters, especially if they've got trade.
Yeah.
They know they'll do all hours. They know they'll do it when it's cold, when it's wet. They're very much hard workers. I was quite fortunate because despite the fact that I've retrained towards the end of my career to be a vehicle mechanic, I then started training other vehicle mechanics, and one of the requisites to going into it was you had to do your maths and English.
Mm-hmm.
Now, a lot of them, people that were helping out, they didn't have maths and English. You know, they joined the military with a basic thing. They struggled at school themselves and didn't want to be there. And I started helping them, not with the English. I'm useless at that myself, but with the maths, definitely. It's something I took quite an interest in, that and the engineering. And then I was quite lucky because something came about. It's called Troops to Teachers. Unfortunately, it's no longer running, but I managed to jump ship and become a teacher. So I left in 2018, and then immediately started retraining with a bursary to be a maths teacher for secondary education.
So you retrained in the Marines to be a VM.
Yeah.
And then you leave the Marines to retrain as a teacher.
Yeah. And then ironically, I've come back to being a VM. No, I mean, it's quite good. It's quite good in the terms of, I mean, I would never employ somebody myself that has done loads of different trades, especially if they've only done it for a year maximum at a time. But I think somebody that's had different walks of life is actually quite good because they've seen things from a different perspective.
Yeah.
And actually, some of the best teachers I know are the ones that went and did something in real life.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go to school, college, back to university, and then go back to a school as a teacher.
Yeah.
You know, they were some of the best teachers I know had been around and done stuff. They used that thing that they're trying to teach in a real life.
Yeah.
So when it actually came to teaching people, they could say, I understand some of you think this is rubbish, but actually I've used this in the past for whatever reason. A good one for me was back to mechanics.
Yeah.
So why do you need to know English and maths? And funny enough, we've had apprentices say to us in the past, why do I need to do this? Why do I need to do this particular calculation? So there was a big difference between a millimetre and a metre. If I had to go ask you to cut something, I want to make sure that measurement's right. Money skills, anything like that. You know, it's they say knowledge is power.
Yeah.
Well, actually, knowledge is skill. I'd rather have somebody that's got knowledge and is willing to learn. That's a big one. Somebody's willing to learn than somebody that doesn't want to learn or knows it all, or says they know all.
There's a few of those.
There's a few of those.
Well, I'm aware that you've done some walking for charity as well. That started while you were as a teacher, didn't it?
It did, yeah.
So what prompted the charity stuff while working as a teacher?
I mean, I never thought I'd have the capacity to do anything for charity. I was very much left the military and I was saying, right, I need to look after myself, I need to look after my family. Me, because at the end of the day, that's the important thing, you and your family. But unfortunately, my marriage broke down. I wasn't able to see my kids as much, but it all happened around about a time where I didn't know what was going on.
Yeah.
It almost felt as though I was in a comfy place. I'd bought a house, we'd had another kid, life was going great. I'd qualified as a teacher, fully qualified, and then all of a sudden it felt like the rug had been pulled.
Yeah.
This is a time where I had to go stay with a friend, and I was still teaching at the time, but clearly not going to work. There was one week, I think it was about a 7-day period, where he was going to work, the colleague that I was staying with, he was going to work, and I was just literally laying in bed, doing nothing, but watching stuff on my laptop, going to the toilet, eating a quick meal if I could eat at the time, and going out for cigarettes. And then I did that for about 7 days, and then something just clicked in my head, and it was get up and go do something. You know, you can't just lie around here. It is good having that rest. Sometimes your body needs a rest, and your mind needs a rest. And my mind did need a rest at that point. I couldn't fathom what was actually going on in my life. If somebody else would say it to me now and say, "Oh, you need to do this, 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 and this," and it is good when you're in a good state of mind because you can actually come up with that. But when you're not in a good state of mind, you don't have a clue what's going on. And as a fallout from that, I didn't want to bother anyone. I didn't want to bother anyone. I thought I was a burden if I was to bother. I talked to friends here and there, talked to professionals and just say, I need a quick chat. But I didn't want to bother family because it's quite draining on them as well, and it's quite upsetting, especially with my family. My family aren't where I live. You know, they're 300 miles away, so it's not like I can just pop around for a cup of tea.
No. It
was on the phone, and didn't want to get them worried. Didn't know who to talk to. So getting to a point where I was almost static. I didn't know what I was doing, and then one day I thought, I don't have any suicidal thoughts or anything, but I need someone to talk to. So I rang Samaritans, and I was on the phone to the chap there, and he was absolutely amazing. I was on the phone to the chap for about 30-40 minutes. This is 30-40 minutes of conversation as well, not grunting and having a few jokes over a pint. You know, these were very professional, very unjudge-worthy. Unjudge-worthy, that word. Unjudgmental, should I say. And then as a fallout from that, you know, I did have a bit of fire at the butt. You know, it spurred me on a little bit. And then I thought, I need to give back to that. I did have a thought about, whilst I was on the phone for those 40 minutes, was there somebody more in need than me that needed that phone call? You know, I quite often think about it. Was there somebody that unfortunately missed out on that phone call? By the sounds of it, hopefully not, you know, because the amount of volunteers they have.
Yeah, but you were calling them, so you know you were in need.
Yeah, didn't feel that way at the time.
No.
You know, it felt as though I was again a burden, but it was who can I be the least burden on? It's only looking back now that I can actually say to myself, no, yeah, I was in need. I needed that. I got what I needed. It actually spurred me on. But as a fallout from that, I said to myself, right, I need to give something back. You know, I could donate a couple of £1, and then on the website, I can't remember the value, but I remember it saying this much money will fund a phone call for 5 minutes. And I thought, right, okay, so I was on the phone for 40 minutes.
Yeah.
The maths teacher came out, right, how much do I need to donate? I thought, no, you know, I want to do something more than that. So I started looking into it, and I thought, well, I quite like walking. I quite like being in the outdoors. I quite like doing stupid things. I'm gonna walk from Plymouth to Devon in 2.5 days for charity. I didn't think much of it at the time, thinking it'd just be a bit of a jolly.
How many miles?
I think.
Do you remember?
I think that one was about 70 miles, because I aimed to get £700 for it. Yeah. For the charity. So yeah, it was about 70 miles. I did it in 2.5 days. It was hard, to say the least. I'd done a lot of training on Dartmoor when I was in training for the Marines. Yeah. But there was something about doing it for somebody else that was a lot different, spurred me on. But there was also almost like a hidden agenda behind it, because I was trying to do it for a charity, but I was also doing it for myself, saying, 2 months ago you couldn't get out of bed for 7 days. Right, let's prove to yourself that you've still got the mental capacity to start something and complete it. And I did, and I enjoyed not 1 minute of it until the end.
That's never till you're done that you enjoy it.
Yeah.
The whole process is like, no. With the charity walks, the idea behind that was, you know, for you not just to give back to the Samaritans charity and community for what they've done for you with that 40-minute phone call.
Yeah.
But you'd also recognised that you needed something to do for your own mental sanity, just being laid up for days.
Yeah. I think it's purpose. I think especially with, I'm not going to say just men's mental health, but I do think it seems more prominent in men's mental health. I think men need a purpose.
Yeah.
They need something to aim for. I mean, some people's is looking forward to going on holiday. That could be their purpose, sorting things out for that and saving up, and that is a purpose. And some people's purpose could be, I can't wait for the weekend because I'm going fishing for 2 days of a competition or something like that.
Yeah.
And mine was, right, okay, I'm fully qualified as a teacher. I've done everything that I wanted to do, almost like a 2-year plan. I've done that, ticked those boxes. I'm almost static now, and it didn't help with everything that was going on in my life. So when I actually started really good, actually, I don't have a purpose apart from going to work and coming home, and that's not a purpose.
Yeah.
You work to live, you don't live to work. So yeah, that gave me a bit of a purpose. So there was 2 agendas. I generally wanted to help people out, and the wider Samaritans community by doing that, and then it was my purpose of, right, okay, I need to train for this now, and I need to complete it. And even when I was on the walk, the purpose whilst I was on the walk was, right, it wasn't you start and then get to the end. That wasn't it. It was, right, you need to make sure you've got all your kit, you need to make sure you've got everything, you need to make sure you're physically fit, you need to make sure you've got a transport booked down to Plymouth, you got accommodation. It sounds small, booking a hotel, but at the time that was actually a big thing for me. It was planning, and it was giving me, I had control of something.
Yeah.
So that's another thing, control. People need control of their own life. That was control for me. Once I got down there, I had nobody to rely on but myself. I had people with my location for safety reasons, but it was on me. It was quite nice actually, because you were relying on yourself. It wasn't start at the beginning, get to North Devon. That wasn't it. It was start at the beginning, and you have to mat read, you have to plan, you have to do this, you have to cook your own food, you have to make sure your feet are in good condition. If you notice the weather's coming in, you need to stop and make sure you're appropriately dressed. And, these are skills that...
Sounds like you're getting back to your basics.
Yeah, well, that's just it. It was going back to basics, but you're not going for a gentle stroll on the Tarka Trail for 10 minutes.
Yeah, there's nothing gentle and strolling about Dartmoor.
No, it was you need to get from that place to the next. Yeah. And I was giving myself checkpoints to reach.
Yeah.
And some of those checkpoints at the beginning were ridiculous. It was like, right, you need to do these 8 miles and then you can stop for lunch. That was fine. In the first half of the thing. Towards the end, it was, right, you need to do these 100 metres and then you can pray to the Bergen gods.
Yeah.
And you're hunched over and just feeling it.
10 metres left, crawling speed.
Yeah. But, this happened again because I did that, and I remember saying to the missus, I'm not doing anything like this again. This is absolutely stupid. My feet are in absolute bits. They're pretty much bandaged up. I had to stop halfway in the middle of Dartmoor. I remember it. I was in the middle of nowhere. Don't get me wrong, the weather was nice. It was sunny. It was cold, but it was sunny. And I just remember my feet in absolute agony. I thought, I can't carry on. These boots are absolutely killing me. I didn't have trainers with me.
Yeah.
As a lesson I've definitely learnt for the next one. So I was like, what am I going to do? And I just remember sitting down going, well, I can't fail. I can't get anyone to bring the trainers out in the middle of Dartmoor. No one I know has got a helicopter. So I took my roll mat off. I had a brand new Berghaus roll mat that I just bought. I remember cutting it up, putting it around my feet and gaffer taping my feet up. Oh, it's like walking on clouds. So I did that for about 8 miles.
Excellent.
And then my feet seemed to have got a bit better then.
Yeah.
So then I put my boots back on and yomped on through with that one. But yeah, I said to the missus, I said, well, I'm not doing anything like that. It was absolutely ridiculous. I've done my part now. I'm not doing anything like that ever again. I did all that when I was younger and I was in the Marines. I'm not doing it again.
Yeah.
And 3 months later, I sat there. I was like, I think I should walk Hadrian's Wall. And she's like, why? I said, I've seen it online. It looks pretty good.
Okay, so you've gone from doing your 70 miles from Plymouth to North Devon, was there any part of that you felt was rewarding?
Yeah, afterwards, I felt as though if I would have dropped out at any stage, it's almost like I don't deserve. I wasn't doing the money thing for me. Not like I was physically getting the money, but it's almost like I don't feel as though people's donations were worth it. Because you put yourself out of comfort zone. Anybody who does anything for charity, they're doing it to raise money, but they are putting this. If you said, right, I'm going to drink 8 cups of tea in a day for charity, it's not exactly hard, is it? But if you're putting yourself out of your comfort zone and you're really challenging yourself, then you do get the reward afterwards of feeling like you've achieved something. And going back to when I said I was, I'm not ashamed to say it, I felt like I was bedbound for 7 days. That actually felt really good, because I was thinking, right, I'm never going to be like that again. And because any time that I am, I'm going to look back at this and go, this is what you're capable of. I'd already achieved stuff when I was in training or throughout my military career. I'd achieved stuff, but this was personal.
So mental health wise, it sounds like it had a real huge impact. Yeah.
I'm not going to say there wasn't times when I broke down on the walk. I was tired, hungry, wet, in the middle of Dartmoor, feet killing, and I thought, I can't do this. And I just sat there going, this is crap. I don't want to be here. I don't want to do this. And then just something again clicked in my head and said, you're doing it for other people. You're doing it for yourself. And the mental health part of it was, you don't stay down. Be down. There's times where you're going to be down. There's times that you're going to be upset. Military term, fredders. But you need to pick yourself up. And unfortunately, no one's going to come to your rescue. No. People can help you, but
ultimately it comes down to you.
I had people say to me at the time, you need to do these, and I was like, my first reaction was, well, you don't know what I'm going through. Doing how people go through different things at different stages of life and handle it differently or feel it differently. So I was saying, you don't know. I had friends that were telling me about their family breakdowns and things like that. I said, but mine's totally different. Do you know what I mean? But
well, it is. It's unique. It's unique to you.
Everything's unique, and it hits people differently.
Absolutely. Something happens and affects you isn't going to have the same effect or outcome on someone else. With their life experience and the way that they've handled and managed things, your experiences are going to be completely different. The way that you're going to react and behave and handle certain things, there'll be certain things that you can handle that, shall we say, a normal civvy wouldn't be able to. And vice versa.
And it's the coping mechanisms that you learn from that. Like I said earlier, with the chaps, some of them in the military when I was serving, they were going through horrendous things in their personal or work life, and they just come into work like normal, and I used to think, how are they coping? And, I used to think that back then, and because they'd got the coping strategies, everyone's got coping strategies to a degree, but if something new comes along that they've never experienced before, you're not wired up for it. You're not built for that yet. It's a lesson that you've unfortunately not had to learn yet. And once you do learn it, then overcome it. And then it's when you start learning the strategies. If it happens again in the future, or if something else happens in the future, you become not numb to it and not unbothered by it, but you identify things. Like, if something else happens in your life, you start to go to yourself, right? Okay, last time this happened, this was good for me. I'm going to do that, and that's a coping strategy, and it's helped me in the past 2 years, absolutely. If ever I've had a moment where I'm feeling down or need something to do or a little bit lost, then I've gone, right, what did you do last time? And then look back and learn from that lesson.
So coping skills, tools, strategies.
Not all of them are going to be worked out by yourself. Some of them are going to come from people like yourself, professionals that are actually there to help.
The
The key thing is, if you don't know and if you are struggling, you need to go see somebody.
Yeah.
You need to go and ask for help. There's nothing. In fact, I would prefer a friendship group where people are open, and I'm part of friendship groups actually. Some of them ex-military.
Yeah.
That people are open about the struggles that they've had, and they're the people you feel confident talking to. You know, if somebody is quite open about their experiences, they don't have to tell you the ins and outs, but you know, they say, no, when this happened to me, I find this helpful.
Yeah.
Maybe you should try. You know, it massively helps, and so it is. But not everybody's got these friendship groups,
No.
unfortunately. But that's why, again, there is people out there, professionals. That is their job.
Yeah, and you know that'll be the benefit of peer support groups
Mhm.
and things like that are around. You know, especially for ex-military or those that have issues with substances and things like that.
Yeah.
So they have people in the group that are going through very similar things that can be related to.
Yeah.
So they know they're not on their own. They're not alone, facing all these horrible bits and pieces.
So
Someone else understands.
I saw a quote ages ago, and it was something about how your lessons in life might be somebody's survival guide one day, and it does help, because everybody suffers to a certain degree with it, or feels things different ways, but somebody will have been through something similar,
Yeah,
if not the
absolutely.
same, and can at least guide you, if not help you.
Yeah. So, what lessons would you say from your time in the Marines would you say have stayed with you and have continued to influence your life? You know, especially around the charity walks that you've done, because you mentioned the Hadrian's Wall we haven't got into yet, but more specifically, you know, I know recently as well you've just done a bike ride.
Yeah, today in fact. I just got back from there. It's a physical element, so it is about, you know, you're not starting at the start line and the end goal is the finish line. You know, it's never the thing. You know, it's the things people don't see before it,
Yeah.
the building up to stuff, and then when you're actually there, is you will struggle. You struggle with everything at some point in your life, and it's just about keeping going, like keeping that one foot in front of the other. Now, charity walks and things like that, I'm quite happy with that, quite confident. The legs ache, but you just push through it.
Yeah.
You know, that's something I learned in the military, was to push through things and just carry on going, to crack on.
Test your limits.
Test your limits, yeah. But that whole thing about putting one foot in front of the other, well, that's day-to-day life. So
Yeah.
you don't need to think about the long-term thing. Sometimes you just need to sit and evaluate, find out what's going on in your life right now,
Yeah.
and going, what's the next best step forward. Again, I was in a position at one point where I didn't want to think about anything. I just wanted to sit and watch Peaky Blinders on TV and just do nothing. That was
Yeah.
me. I was quite happy doing that because I couldn't cope with what was going on in my personal life. Escaping is not the answer to it. You know, you need to eventually face it.
Yeah.
You need to face it, and despite whether you know it's going to hurt or whether you know it's going to be painful, emotionally or physical, you're gonna have to. You have to
Sooner or later.
sooner or later.
It comes around and bites you.
Yeah. So you're better off dealing with it as soon as you can.
Yeah.
So it's, you know, the skills that I like to think the military gave me were a bit of determination and facing things head on.
Yeah.
I didn't feel as though I was capable when everything happened to me, but it didn't take me long to go, right, you've done this before, let's do it again.
It's always different though when it happens to you, isn't it? You know.
Yeah.
You see it happen to people around you, people you love, friends, and you hope it doesn't happen to you, and then one day it does, and it's like, wow.
Yeah, I've whether or not it being in the military or in civilian occupation, you know, I've seen people that are going through things,
Yeah.
and you know, I'd give it 4 or 5 years ago, if somebody came up asking for help, mental help for them,
Yeah.
and they need help with this, I wouldn't have understood it. I can put my hands up and say I wouldn't have understood it. I wouldn't have understood what they were going through, and how it can help them. And I'd probably signposted them in probably the most unhelpful way whatsoever, and going, "Oh, you need to go see a professional."
Yeah.
You know, and it'd almost come across rude to them. But that would be me trying to help them, because I don't have a clue what to do here.
So what about now?
I think, again, is the lessons that, or the experience that I've had, is to actually turn around people and have a little bit of understanding, a bit of empathy. And I've always had sympathy for people. I always have. I think I've grown up having sympathy for people and animals. You know, I like to help people, but I think having gone through it, I can actually give a bit of empathy as well, and not give it almost like when that happened to me, I did this, and you just need to man up and get on with it. It would have been absolutely none of that now. It would be what's actually happened, you know, and actually sit down. And some people don't want to talk about it, but they want to talk to somebody about it, and you know, you don't need to put it all on yourself.
Well, that's part of the military ethos as well, isn't it? Man up.
Yeah. I mean, when you're away, you know, there's a time and place. Sometimes you just need to man up and get on with it.
Yeah, absolutely.
But that's why the military are good in terms of when they do come back, if people need help, it's there for them.
Yeah.
I mean, years ago we were shooting our own people for cowardism.
Yeah.
It's only in the past few years that it's been recognised it was actually PTSD and shell shock.
Yeah.
And again, that's because people didn't understand it, and I think we are getting better and better at understanding.
Yeah.
There's also the opportunity now for me, if anything does happen, I feel more confident.
Yeah.
So if somebody says I've got this issue, or somebody just, I don't know, just burst out crying one day, well, you know that's not a normal human behaviour.
Yeah.
You know, people don't just walk around doing that. So you can identify straight away and say, you know, what can we do? How can we help each other?
Yeah.
And you don't want to make it seem as though they're a burden, because that's something I definitely think. I thought, I am a burden. I'm going through this, and I'm the only one that's ever gone through it. In my, you know, in the entire world, I'm the only one that's ever been through this, so I'm a burden. No, it's not. I won't like to put figures on it, but I reckon it's a high percentage of people that have been through something like that.
Yeah, it generally is. You know, that's the whole point of, like I said earlier, with the peer support groups and things like that, that allow people to get together and talk about their similarities in regards to the things they're going through, whether it's addiction or, you know, other mental health issues and problems that are going on.
Yeah.
It helps people identify with themselves, you know, things that are going on that they can have that link with and that commonality with somebody else, and initially have that support.
And I think sometimes people just want to know somebody cares.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a big one, because if you were telling people and it felt like nothing was being done, or even if things are getting done, but they're getting done in the background, and you know, you're concentrating on this thing that's going on in your life 24/7, you know, every minute of every day is why people lose sleep, because they're just fixated on something.
Yeah.
And if you feel as though nobody's listening to you, you feel as though nobody cares, which is actually not true. There's a lot of people that care. There's a lot of people that care for people's welfare and well-being, but there's also a lot of people that care because they want to help. You know, naturally, humans want to help each other.
That's all about community, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's been around a good community. You know, when everything happened to me, I got told to talk to people. So I went from one extreme to the other.
Yeah.
I went from one extreme of wanting to tell nobody and feeling as though I'm being a burden, to when I started getting more comfy talking to people, I was thinking actually it's helping, even when they weren't actually necessarily doing anything after it. They were just an ear to talk to. I felt good afterwards.
Yeah.
So then I started telling too many people, and unfortunately it did come back in a particular situation to bite me in the butt, as it were, and that was almost used against me.
Yeah.
But something I've learned from that is a community. You know, seek the people that you think would help you the best, as it were. Like you said earlier about people that have been through the same things, so the groups and things like that. They are some of the best ones. Non-judgmental, they are there to help.
Because everybody's been through something similar.
And depending on their background, so the military got their cheerfulness and adversity kind of ethos. There's times when I've been talking to some of the lads that I used to serve with, and they've come out with a joke, and I've just started laughing. I felt like I was never going to laugh again in my life, and they'd say something, and I'd just start laughing. I was thinking, that was such a rubbish joke, or it was just so off the cuff.
Yeah.
I still do it now. I'm part of a group, and I made a joke about it last November, when it was Men's Mental Health Month.
Yeah.
And as at the beginning of it, I said, everyone's aware it's Men's Mental Health Month. If anyone's struggling, please reach out to me. I fancy a laugh.
Yeah.
And it wasn't to make anyone feel bad. It was just that kind of horrible. I don't know, it's a bit potential banter.
Well, let's just say it's got a very fine focus group.
Yeah, it's niche. Is what it was.
Yeah, you can say that to most civvies and have them understand.
Yeah, but that's what I mean about finding a community that understands you and you feel comfortable about. That's the biggest one. You've got to feel comfortable around them.
Yeah.
You've got to be comfortable. Otherwise, you're not gonna tell them the full story. You're not gonna get the full support that you actually need.
Yeah.
So reach out to the right people. Is what I'd say.
Absolutely. And you mentioned men's mental health a minute ago, so I'm just wondering, what it is that you see as some of the biggest challenges that men face when it comes to talking about and discussing mental health. Those vulnerabilities and all that sort of stuff.
I mean, men, we're not supposed to have mental health issues. We're supposed to walk around like cavemen with clubs and hunting dinosaurs, aren't we? It's
the good old days.
The good old days, yeah. I'm a bit young for that though. No, it's almost seen as a stigma for men, isn't it? It's almost seen like men shouldn't have mental health. Men shouldn't struggle. Men should be men.
Yeah.
Stiff upper lip, World War II, over the top. Here we, you know what I mean? It's,
yeah.
But unfortunately, it's not like that. People struggle. Everybody struggles. Kids, adults, and men do struggle, and they hide it quite a lot because they're almost like protectors. It's almost like they have got it in tune to them to be protectors and be strong.
Yeah. So when it comes to, you see your buddies, your mates, how you doing, how you getting on, you okay? And the response is, I'm fine.
Oh yeah, absolutely. How's it going? Yeah, not too bad. You? Yeah, not too bad. I'll see you in another 6 months. Yeah, absolutely. I've got friends I do that with, but I'd like to think if they really had something, they would reach out. But we are very quick to say everything is okay.
Oh, absolutely. And the whole aspect around those words, I'm fine.
Yeah, it was used. Was it used as an advertisement a while back? Wasn't it? If someone says I'm fine, they're not fine.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, they've probably go too far. And if someone says I'm fine, you're like, oh, let's go sit down and talk. No, generally I'm all right. Leave me alone.
Yeah, absolutely. But, it can be taken two different ways. But generally, when you ask a man if he's fine, how are you? You're right. Even if you can see that they're in pain, their initial response is, yeah, I'm fine, because it's that whole aspect of what you were saying earlier. I don't want to burden anybody. And for men in general, as far as I've always seen, is that you don't share because you don't want to put anything else on anyone else, because everybody's got their own problems. So you don't want to add to those. Especially
if you're a caregiver as well, especially if you've got a partner, or if you've got kids, you have to almost seem to be strong for them. Well, actually, what's stronger? Somebody that goes, I'm fine, and has a heart attack at 50 because they've bowled it all away, or somebody that goes, no, do you know what? I'm not fine. There's something wrong. I need to look into this. I need to sort out what it is, so I can be there for my kids. So I can be there for other people. So I can be there for my friends. So I can be a functioning human being. Yeah. It was a stigma. I think it's becoming more and more acceptable to be a man and actually seek help. The old November and Movember and things like that. Yeah. It seemed to be more advertised a couple of years ago when it first came out, but it still goes on. We still see it every November. there's a whole month. Doesn't mean you're only allowed to say you need help in that month. You know, there's 12 months in a year.
All year round.
All year round.
Absolutely.
If you need help, you need help. But, you know, it is more acceptable now.
Yeah.
Maybe generations ago, you know.
It's not seen as you being a sissy.
No, absolutely not. In fact, like I said earlier, I'd rather have the person next to me, either working with me or when I was in the forces deployed with me, that was able to do that, because you can trust them more.
Yeah.
I find it more as having somebody that can open, either not necessarily open up, but talk about things and identify when they do need help, more trustworthy. Because the last thing I'd want is somebody going on a deployment that is physically and mentally struggling, that is not willing to do anything about it, because it can become to a danger to themselves and everyone around them.
And some of the problem is you can't always tell either, because it's bottled up so tight that you can't really tell until something gives. And then sometimes, especially in the military, it's a little bit too late.
Absolutely. And you know, it happened to a place that I was based. It was actually before I got there, but they all said he seemed absolutely fine. You know, he seemed fine. There was nothing wrong with him.
There's that word again.
Yeah. You know, he'd come to work, he'd do his job, and he'd go home again. And nobody saw. Unfortunately, he took his own life because he didn't know how to act. He didn't know how to cope.
But people like that are very, very good at masking and hiding behind, we'll go with a fake smile. Yeah. You know, a picture paints 1,000 words.
Yeah, absolutely.
But does it actually show you what's going on? You know, I saw a thing on LinkedIn a few years ago where there was a photograph of this young guy, had a drink in his hand, massive smile on his face. Girl next to him, arm round her, and the caption was, "Would you believe he took his own life yesterday?"
Yeah.
You know, and from that photograph, you wouldn't think that there was anything wrong. So it's all a mask. It's all a front.
Yeah, because I've seen similar ones where it was. It's not the quiet ones that you need to worry about. Sometimes it's the ones that are life of the party.
Absolutely. Yeah.
You know,
they're hiding things.
They're hiding things. I mean, maybe being the life of the party does make them feel good. Maybe you know that's a nice feeling. You know, again, everyone's different. But then when they're on their own, you know, it's a different story, and they feel lonely, isolated, and they don't feel as though they've got any friends.
Yeah, it's a hard one. It's difficult to tell, and you can't always tell when you ask either.
No. Do enjoy being alone on Dartmoor sometimes, though.
I can imagine, especially when the night's clear.
Yeah, and not raining.
No. So, how do you think that our society, specifically, you know, as in the UK, can better support men who are struggling with mental health and the issues and the problems that they have day to day?
I think being more accepting of it.
When you say more accepting, what do you mean?
I think
more accepting of what?
I think the UK, that men do struggle with mental health.
Yeah, absolutely.
Now, I do think the UK are accepting of it, and I think the UK are very accepting of a lot of things. But we get a month, essentially. You know, it's not a club, but men's mental health gets a month, gets November, almost advertised. And in 2 years ago, 2023, I saw it quite heavily advertised.
Yeah.
Almost like, you know, if you need help, get help. You know, lots of different things. And there was comedy shows and stuff coming out. You know, it was all good. You know, it was making it more understanding about men's mental health and good to talk about it.
Yeah.
Now last year I didn't see anything, if I'm honest. And I like to think I'm quite up to date with the news and stuff like that, and I didn't see anything. Now the problem is all these people that have been aware of the men's mental health 2 years ago, and that's brilliant. You know, there's teenagers now growing up becoming men that are going to fall into the same trap.
Yeah.
Where unless people around them are advertising that it's good to talk about stuff or seek help, then it's going to revert back to the old ways. It's almost like there's a day and a month for absolutely everything now.
Yeah, there is. Yeah.
So
there's a day celebrating toast.
I mean, it floats your boat, isn't it? I mean, it was only last Monday. Well, the Monday just gone actually, yeah, where it was Blue Monday. It was called.
Yeah. In
the news, it's the most depressing day of the year. But then I didn't see anything around it saying if you need help, if you want to talk to somebody or, things to get out of Blue Monday. It was literally, it's the worst day of the year today, and then that was it. There's no. So it's to carry on the. I'm saying I don't like the word advertising. It's almost like you're trying to sell something.
Yeah.
But carry on.
I know what you mean.
Letting it out that people will struggle. And if it is the most depressing day of the day, let's do something about it. Do you know what I mean? Although I don't agree with that myself, it was the most depressing day. People have days in the year where they're probably more depressed than they were on Monday.
Yeah.
But we shouldn't be concentrating on depressing days. We should be concentrating on things in general. It shouldn't be a month-long thing. It should be telling everybody, if you've got an issue, don't wait till November.
Yeah.
Everybody.
Well, of course, it's an all year round thing, but having that 1 month dedicated to it just chucks all that advertising.
Yeah.
As you say, at it. But the focus is, it's on mental health, whether it's men, women, or whoever. It's the focus of mental health and mental health problems and talking about them. Bringing them to light.
And it's not just about talking sometimes. Sometimes it's about telling people what to do.
Yeah.
And sometimes, men in particular, but it's everybody, men in particular, like to be told what to do.
Oh, absolutely.
Like, it's like, I'm not, I've got 2 weeks off work, I'm bored, I don't know what to do. Go do something then. Like, go do what you love, go do your hobby, go do this, go do that. And you go, do you know what, I feel really great. I've actually got a friend that a while back said, we're going out spoons for a drink, something to eat. And I was like, oh yeah, I can do. And then he was like, oh, I'm busy. And then I was busy. And, it almost seemed like we were trying to arrange something that was a chore. And then eventually when I did, I was like, I really enjoyed that. I feel really good for that. Sometimes you need to be told, and in the end I was like, right, no excuses, on this day we're going out on that day, and it felt great.
And that is a man thing.
Yeah.
I work with couples a lot, and one of the things with the couples that I have is the ladies are always saying, I've got to tell him to go and do these things. I have to tell him, if I want something, I have to tell him.
Yeah.
And it's like the man's brain doesn't work like that. Sometimes we need to be told that you want a hug, or you want to hold hands, or you need something to eat, or whatever it is that's going on. And you need to be told.
And sometimes it's nice to be told, like, because
absolutely,
you feel as though somebody
needed
and understands you.
Wanted.
So, I mean, I've just done something over this weekend, and it was only because I sat at home and the missus went, "You've not done something stupid for a while." I was like, right. She went, well,
wasn't her idea, was it? You fancy riding from Plymouth to here?
No, it was my idea to do it, but she's like, "You've not done anything for a while." She goes, "You've got some time off coming soon, what are you going to do?" And I was like, well, I don't know, I'm not going to mope around the house for 2 weeks, am I? And then she was like, "Why don't you go away and do something, or go do another event?"
Yeah.
And then I was sat and I had a quick 10-15 minutes on Google, and I thought, yeah, I'm going to do that. I'm going to go get that bike that I've not ridden in 5 years, that I don't even know if it works properly. I'm going to go and stick some saddles on it and load a bag, and then I'm going to cycle pretty much from one end of Devon to the other in 2 days. And when we were discussing it throughout the thing, I was like, oh, I'm not looking forward to it. 'Cause, I've not ridden the bike, and it's almost like I'm making excuses, isn't it, already? And I was like, oh yeah, there's a storm coming in, and the weather's supposed to be really bad. But now I was talking, but on that route there's this particular bit. Oh, and what on this route there's this particular bit. Oh, and on the way down I could stop off and I can get this food. And she's like, look at this smile on your face. You're like a giddy kid. And I was, and it was the first one of the first things that I've just done for myself.
Yeah.
So not charity orientated or anything like that.
So this cycling 70 or 80 miles was just pure you, because you had time to do it.
Yeah, I had a free weekend and I thought, I've got nothing else on, let's go do something.
But like you said, she said how much of a childish, giddy smile you had.
Yeah.
At the thought of doing it.
And whilst doing it, you get a lot. I tell you what, one thing about getting out and about for a day, yeah, brilliant. But if you get out for 2, 3, 4, 5 days, whatever you're doing, if it's a longer thing, the amount of thinking time you have, which for some people might be a bad thing.
Yeah.
But for myself, when I'm on my own and it's just me, I can get a lot of thinking done. I can get a lot of problem solving. It feels great at times. And apart from most of the time thinking, ow my knee, ow my leg, this bike seat is horrible. Apart from doing that for most of the 2 days, I was thinking, I'm doing this, and I was thinking about other stuff, good stuff and bad stuff. There's plenty of thinking time.
That sounds like a 2-day break from life.
That's exactly what it was, wasn't it? And it's the end. So whilst it's happening, like with anything, so it's not trying to be philosophical or anything, but whilst it was happening, there was parts of it I really didn't enjoy.
Yeah.
There's parts of it that I thought, this is ridiculous. In the middle of Dartmoor, going into Oakhampton, thinking to myself, I could probably ring the missus up to come pick me up from here because I'm wet and I'm really not happy. And then I get down there and I get a quick coffee down my neck and some Haribo Tangtastics. Get them down my neck.
Tangtastics.
And then give it 5 minutes and right, next hill, let's go. And by the time I'd finished today, there's no like clapping as you come in or anything like that. But I didn't need it because it was me. It was something I'd achieved. Yeah. And I'll be floating on that one for weeks. I've already texted mates. Like some of them knew I was going, some of them didn't, and I was texting them pictures of where I am and things like that. And then we're coming back going, there's a storm on, right? And it just felt good that I was doing something for myself and I'd achieved something. Yeah. Whilst I was doing it, the amount of people I saw doing something for myself, that's one thing I did think when I was doing it. So I'd say for people to get to say exercise is brilliant for you. I know not everybody's going to jump on a bike and start cycling for a couple of days or wild camping. It's not people don't like that. That's fine. Everyone's got their own little thing.
Absolutely.
But whilst I was on it, I saw a park run. So it's actually in Plymouth, on the outskirts of Plymouth as I was coming out. Yeah. There was loads of people running. It was an organised event. I'd say look into stuff like that because I don't personally. I'm not a fan of running, if I'm honest. I prefer me hiking, me walking, apparently cycling now. And I saw it and I thought, actually there's going to be park runs. There is the park run website, isn't there? There's park runs everywhere in the UK. So get involved in something like that.
Yeah, we've got one in Bideford.
Bideford Park Run,
yeah. That's like every few weeks, I think.
And that gives you a goal or a purpose, as it were. It gives you something to aim for, to train for, and there's going to be like-minded people there. Yeah. You are getting to know people out of your friendship groups that you're already part of, or colleague groups, work groups. You're getting to know different people, and who knows, you might be going there to help your mental health, and there might be other people there, similar age, similar hobbies. That are doing the same thing. There you go, there's your support, there's a support group. Absolutely. My support group is sending pictures to family and friends of what I'm doing and then just going, you're an idiot. But that's not, everyone needs to find their own. Yeah, everyone needs to find their own thing. And the missus saying every 6 months you need to leave the house for a weekend and go run over a mountain somewhere.
That's a fair shout. Okay, well we've only got a few minutes left, so I've got one more question. Yeah. And with the guys that are listening, what advice would you give them in regards to managing mental health, or if they're feeling they're struggling, what's your advice to them?
When I first started struggling, I went straight to Google, and it was, what can I do for mental health?
Yeah.
And I'm too lazy to read, so I went straight on the pictures, and it went, do some exercise, cook something you like, have a bath, have a cup of tea. When I spoke to a GP,
yeah,
they said, the GPs are amazing, but they're very overworked in terms of mental health.
Yeah.
The whole UK is. That was, have you had a hot bath and a cup of tea? I was thinking, yeah, I've had about 15. It's not helping. I need the next thing.
Yeah.
Is reach out to somebody sooner rather than later. The longer you leave it, the harder it is to come back. It's like getting on that train. You miss your stop, the longer you leave it, the longer it's going to take to come back. That's one thing that I regret doing, or not doing should I say, is I probably left it too long and let things build up.
Yeah.
Whether it was depression or being sad or angry, I left it too long before I went, yeah, actually I need to see somebody. As soon as I did, I was on my way back.
Yeah.
But it's hard to ask for it, but as soon as you do, the sooner you feel the benefits. And I now, I have off days, as everybody does. And if everybody says they've never had an off day, they're lying. Every single person has had off days.
Yeah, absolutely.
But the things that I've done and the help that I've been given, when I wake up in the morning going, well, you did it when you were cold, you did it when you were wet, you did it when you were upset, and you did it when you were tired. Right, you can do this. And just that little thing just helps every day now.
Fabulous. Okay, well, thank you very much for joining us today.
No, thanks for having me.
It's been a wonderful experience sharing stories. For our listeners, as usual, get in the comments. If you've got any questions that you want to ask, by all means do so. We've also got our helpful links for all kinds of mental health charities and organisations, including Samaritans as well, you can be linked to.